everyone, welcome back to my channel, and I just want to say thank you so much for over 130,000 subscribers. I can't believe we reached that milestone, so thank you so much. If you're a newer subscriber, welcome. If you've been here since the beginning, thank you so much, and thank you for continuing to come back to see what I have to say. You know, I spend a lot of time on my videos. They take a lot of time to make, and I'm so glad that you enjoy them all. I've honestly been feeling kind of down about my channel recently because my viewership metrics have been pretty low compared to other years that I've been on YouTube, so I'm feeling kind of down about that, but I'm going to talk about Creator Burnout and what I have planned for this month later on in this video. But to celebrate this milestone of 130,000 subscribers, I decided to do a Q&A/reacting to your assumptions about me, because I thought that'd be a fun way for us to interact and get to know each other a bit more. So let's get into that. So I received a lot of questions about Brazil because, as many of you know, I currently live in Brazil, even though I'm from the US. So I'll start with those questions first, and then we're going to talk about, questions that I got about my channel, and lastly, just some miscellaneous questions. So let's go. At DevinMum5728 asked, why did you move to Brazil specifically? What attracted you to Brazil, and what do you like about living in Brazil? Also, I hope you and your kid are doing great. In a similar vein, at Tamoito-chan asked, when did you move to Brazil? New follower, haha. There's something from here you always think, if I move away, I'll miss X thing, dish, candy so much. So as my older followers probably know, I've lived in the northeast of Brazil in Ceará since 2017, and I moved here because my husband is Brazilian. I really like living in Brazil. Life here is honestly so different from the US that it's even really hard to put into words. You just kind of have to experience it. Hashtag come to Brazil. But I really love the natural wonders here, especially in Ceará. We're known for our beaches as well as our serras or hills. Socially, I like how generally things are more laid back here. People feel a little less entitled than in the US, for example. Like, for instance, in the US in the grocery store, if you're in someone's way, someone's gonna be like, excuse me, But people in Brazil kind of just brush past you and without making it a big deal. And at first this really bothered me because when you brush past people in the US, it's like an invasion of your personal bubble. But here it's just kind of normal, and nowadays I actually prefer people just pushing past me than being in my face and being like, excuse me, can you get out of the way? Like, for example, I visited the US a few years back, and I had this reverse culture shock moment where I stopped in the middle of a busy sidewalk to take a photo, and someone just started yelling at me like, you can't just stand there. And granted, I did stop, and it's a busy sidewalk, but it was just to take a photo for a few seconds. Do you own the sidewalk? And also, can't you mind your own business? This was in New York City too, so do with that what you will. But even in busy downtown areas in Fortaleza, which is the capital of the state and the most populated city in the state, I've never experienced just such rudeness. On the other hand, Brazil, of course, has its more negative aspects, some of which are unique to the country, others that aren't. But nonetheless, Brazil is a beautiful country. The people generally are really nice, albeit some are very ignorant, racist, but that's not a unique problem to the country. At Peanutbutter3 asked, how many languages do you speak? I speak English and Portuguese as I live in Brazil. Oi para meus seguidores brasileiros, obrigada por seu apoio e eu ainda faço muito erros quando eu falo, mas eu tô treinando todos os dias, né? Então, obrigada para me seguir e para seu apoio. At Jenny Bit asked, what's your favorite Brazilian dish and landmark? And this kind of coincides with at Tamoito-chan's question of if there's anything I'd miss about Brazil if I ever moved away. And one thing I'd miss is definitely the food. My favorite Brazilian dish isn't necessarily Brazilian, but I love Brazilian lasagna. It's really good. And I'd also miss paçoca de carne do sol and baião. One thing that Brazilians know how to do really well is how to season rice. Brazilians love putting stuff on rice like farofa, paçoca, vinaigrette. It's just really good. And at first I actually didn't like farofa or paçoca. If you don't know, they're basically granulated bits of like mandioca or things like that. But now I can't eat rice without it. And at first I was kind of turned off by farofa and stuff because they're like kind of like these hard granules that you're putting on your rice. But they really season it really well. So definitely try that if you ever come here. I also love how the countryside or the interior is so easy, to get fresh food from local farms like eggs or ovos caipira and fresh cow milk and fresh fruit. It's really awesome. Like sometimes you'll just be, walking through the city and you'll see like a avocado tree or a mango tree. And it's just like really interesting. As for my favorite Brazilian landmark, I don't know if this counts as a landmark, but Beira-Mar in Fortaleza is really beautiful. It's like this giant boardwalk or calçadão where, people just congregate and hang out. You can play volleyball, soccer, skate, talk with friends, eat, drink. It's just like a great place to socialize at night or in the late afternoon when it's less hot. One thing that I think Brazil isn't really lacking is third places. There's a lot of third places here. There's the public square. There's, the calçadão, or at least, a type of boardwalk if you live by, a body of water or like the ocean, because Fortaleza is a coastal city. And a thing in Ceará is that not only do we have the beach, but the weather's nice almost all year round. So we can really use the outdoors as, a third place. People gather on the street every night and talk, or play soccer in the street, or go again to a praça or public square, or the malls here are booming. They're definitely not dead like how they might be in the US. I haven't been to the US in a while, so I don't know if malls are having like a resurgence or not. But a great thing about Brazil that I really like is, the fact that the outdoors is utilized so much. And another question relating to Brazil that I got on Curious Cat, because I decided to make a Curious Cat to get anonymous questions just in case people didn't feel comfortable leaving a comment. One question was, my friend and I are planning a trip to Brazil next year. Have any tips or recommendations for first-time visitors? That's a good question. I guess my main tip is to enjoy the trip and have fun. I think there's so much fear, about coming to Brazil because, at least in the US, a lot of people are afraid of Brazil. They don't really know what's there. All they hear about is like disease and crime. And actually, if you go to the travel.gov website from the US, there's like this huge warning about like coming here, like that makes you think that it's like this terrible, horrible place that you shouldn't visit. But honestly, if you just do your research and are vigilant and careful and use, common sense, you'll be fine. Don't be afraid. I would say to try a lot of street foods if you're here, because street food is really good here, especially Brazilian hot dogs. And try to learn some Portuguese definitely before coming. I don't know where you're going specifically, but in general, people don't speak English. I know that sounds obvious, but we live in such a US-centric, English-centric world that sometimes, it's easy to forget that. And my advice here is kind of vague because I don't know where in Brazil you're going to. I'm only really familiar with Ceará. So there's that. You're probably going somewhere in the south. So, take with that what you will. I'm sure wherever you are, you're going to have a good time. So that's the last question about Brazil. Thank you so much for asking them, and I hope my answers sufficed. I didn't know you guys were so curious about Brazil, but it's fun to talk about because it's interesting sharing my own experience. So now on to questions about YouTube. At Normalized Natalie asked, "Hi Shai, I'm curious who you would consider your political influences to be. People or events or anything. I'm interested in your intellectual journey because you're really smart." Thank you so much, Natalie, but I don't really know how smart I am. I'm just, an average person. I just want to emphasize that. I'm just an average person making videos online, but thank you so much. And to answer at Artsy Lovely Lady's assumption, I assume that you graduated from a top-tier college or university with a bachelor's of arts degree. So I want to kind of answer these two questions together because they're pretty similar. So I actually graduated from a public state college with student debt, so that was great. But you're right that I graduated with a BA in English and a minor in history. As for my political influences and journey, I actually grew up in a very pro-democratic household in a mostly Republican area, ironically. However, my family mainly supported the Democrats because it was like this early 2000s vibe of liberal smugness. Like the Democrats saw themselves as just intellectually superior than those ignorant conservatives and Republicans, and that, these types of intellectuals aligned themselves with Democrats because that made them feel smart, basically. They basically aligned themselves with, liberal values because that was the smart thing to do, and it made themselves feel superior. We were big John Kerry supporters in our house, voted for Obama, the Clintons, Warren supporters, etc. And mainly, again, we followed liberal politics because, logically, they're just clearly better than those quote-unquote idiot rednecks who keep voting against their own interests. We watched a lot of Rachel Maddow too, so that should tell you a lot about the household I grew up in. When I went off to college, I just continued to follow liberal or left-leaning politics because, I just never really questioned it, honestly. And I went to a very liberal arts school that, pushed us to take a lot of gender studies classes. And honestly, I just jived with those, I never really felt any compassion towards conservative politics or any interest in really getting to know more about that. And in college, it was really eye-opening, I guess. I had a lot of really great professors. I remember we read Janet Mock's memoir. That was literally on my college syllabus for one of my classes. And we even saw her speak, which was really awesome. Went to the vagina monologues with my friends. And I think this all just comes down to being a racial minority and being a political minority in a mostly conservative town growing up. Just kind of showed me how bigoted the world is, when I was just a kid. And when you are being bullied for your race or for your political ideas when you're so young, it kind of makes you want to tear down the systems and the ideology that makes those kind of people possible, I guess. And that, the kind of systems that allow white supremacy and patriarchy and all this other horrible stuff. I guess that I've just been radicalized since I was a kid. At Cammy's Smith asked, what inspired you to start a YouTube channel and what made you pick the niche you become known for in your channel? I was inspired to start a YouTube channel because I felt like there was a gap in the YouTubers I was watching at the time. This was in college, so from 2013 to 2017 was when I was really I want to start a YouTube channel, but I thought I was too young and I didn't have the equipment, I didn't have the money to start a channel, so I just couldn't do that, but I just watched a lot of YouTube. I was watching Lindsay Ellis, Tiffany Ferg, Wisecrack, Feminist Frequency with Anita Sarkeesian, Adam Ruins Everything, some more news, college humor, all of that stuff. And I felt like a certain perspective was lacking, specifically a racial one. And I wanted to fill that void and kind of talk about the things that they were talking about, but from my own perspective. So that's what I did. And I honestly don't think there were a lot of Asian American or Asian hyphenate video essayists at the time, but now there are, which is awesome. There's Mina Lei, Ali Sanvia, Aini, etc. They're making amazing videos. Go check them out. Subscribe if you haven't already. And they're putting out videos that literally put mine to shame. They're just so good. And as for my niche, which I guess is dissecting pop culture through an intersectional lens, I feel like I didn't choose that niche, but rather it chose me. My most popular videos are mostly talking about those things, talking about media through an intersectional lens. But of course, those topics obviously interest me. And my niche, I guess, is kind of broad because I make videos about a lot of stuff, not just analyzing media. I don't really know what my niche would be necessarily, but let me know down in the comments. At Kelly Lay 2632 asked, out of all your videos, which ones are your favorite and why? As a side note, I really liked your videos about early 2000s media and pop culture. Your Fembot video in particular is one that I think about a lot. So thank you so much for that comment. That made me feel really good. I love the Fembot one too. That's probably one of my favorite videos. I also really like my video about Man in the High Castle and Planet of the Apes. They're some of my favorites. I really love Planet of the Apes and I wish that video got more views. I love talking about I Am Legend and Planet of the Apes. So, go check that out if you haven't already. And the reboot trilogy of Planet of the Apes is actually getting a 4th film, which I'm so excited for. At Always Sleeping 2456 asked, What's a video you would like to do, but because of any reason you can't do it? So while I was brainstorming videos for this month, I actually decided to scrap a video about smartphones and social media and how things were better back then. because I couldn't really find a thesis to it. Like, it just turned out to be a big ramble on why I think that smartphones and social media are bad. So it didn't really have like anything new to say, like anything new to add to this conversation about social media and smartphones. So I kind of just gave it up. And in general, like, the internet is still a net positive, but the main point of the video was going to be that I think that we should have just stopped with internet and computers, and we shouldn't have continued on to like smartphones and putting the internet on literally every single thing we have. One thing that I was going to talk about was how, they tell us not to text and drive, but they make cars with like huge tablets next to the steering wheel. Like, how does that work, But I just feel like I sound like a grumpy millennial, so I just gave that up. If you want to know my thoughts, just watch Bo Burnham's song Welcome to the Internet. So now for miscellaneous questions. At Evelyn EU9IW asked, are you a dog person or a cat person? Do you like animals in general? And yes, I love animals. As for cats and dogs, as a kid, I was really into dogs. I would watch those dog shows on Animal Planet. But as an adult, I'd much prefer a cat, honestly. At TMRX._ asked, what are your favorite films? And that's a really great question because I have a lot of favorite films. I was actually just rewatching one of my favorite films on Netflix that they're now taking off the platform, so that's great. And that movie is Catch Me If You Can. It's an amazing movie. I remember really liking it as a kid, so it's kind of nostalgic. But I did some research recently, and most of the events in that film were fabricated. Like, the real life guy just lied about things that he did, and he was actually charged for sexual harassment. So that's great. But the fictional story and the events in the story and the acting is just really good. I really like that movie. Some of my other favorite films are Marie Antoinette. I really like Sofia Coppola's films. I can't wait to see Priscilla when it comes out on streaming. I also like Parasite. Parasite I've rewatched a lot recently. I just love that one. Revolutionary Road, Lady Bird, Farewell My Concubine, The Joy Luck Club. Those are like the ones that come to mind when people ask me, what's my favorite film. Let me know what your favorite films are down below. I'd love to hear about them. At Grace Anderson asked, do you like to read? What are your favorite books? I do like to read, but honestly, I haven't had much time for it, like reading novels or fictional works. But I do really like Lisa C's novel, but at the same time, I was watching another YouTube video that I'll put here that kind of like made me recognize how much privilege Lisa C has in the publishing industry as a white author whose grandfather just happened to be a Chinese immigrant, and how she uses that like as a basis for all of her work and knowledge. And I think I really saw the problems with her work when she wrote about Chinese American adoptees, and how that book didn't really connect with me very well, but her other works that I don't have a frame of reference for really did connect with me. So there's kind of that weird discrepancy. But my favorite books of hers are Shanghai Girls and Dreams of Joy. Like, those two books are like a series, and I really like them. Recently, I've been reading parenting books, How to Talk So Little Kids Will Listen, and Raising Good Humans. I definitely recommend the former rather than the latter. So that's it for the Q&A, and I just want to say thank you so much for asking these questions. I had a lot of fun answering them, and thank you so much for your continued support of my work. I really appreciate it. You guys have no idea. I've always wanted to be a YouTuber, and you guys made that possible, so thank you. And now I'm going to just talk a little bit about Creator Burnout, which is a total opposite thing. But also just do some housekeeping and talk about, where my channel is headed and how I'm feeling like as a creator. Like I said in the beginning of this video, I've been feeling really low about my channel since my metrics are really low comparatively to how they've been in the past. And that makes me, upset because I work so hard on these videos, and when they don't do well, like numbers wise, it feels like a waste of time almost. And it also feels like, when your job is based on like your thoughts and opinions, and your work is your thoughts and opinions, it makes it feel like maybe you're out of touch. Maybe, I'm just getting too old for this, or maybe, the quality isn't there, or the topics are off. Maybe I'm, again, out of touch. I don't know. And like with YouTube, you never really know if it's the algorithm, if it's, the audience that isn't interested in what you're putting out. But it always feels like very personal because my videos are so personal. I'm the only person behind them. So it's like this weird thing of like, I don't know really where to go. I feel a little bit more anxious when I'm picking a topic because I don't know if it's going to do well. And I don't want to also put in all this time into a video that doesn't do well, because I do put a lot of time, a lot of work, a lot of editing goes into it, and I don't want to like waste that. So when I'm picking a topic nowadays, I don't really know like what I'm going to talk about anymore. Like I don't really know how to pick a topic that's going to be engaging. Or maybe it's just the editing that's not engaging. If you have any advice, just let me know. If I actually recently made a community post asking for video recommendations because, again, I don't know what topic I should cover next, because I thought that the Barbie video was going to do a little bit better, but it turned out not to. So maybe like I need to pivot just to other content. I'm thinking about making a video about the Fuyao Glass documentary, because I really do like that documentary, and putting it in conversations with other documentaries about East Asia that are made usually from like a Western perspective, like A State of Mind from 2004 about the mass games in North Korea, and One Child Nation, which I think is produced by Amazon. So I kind of wanted to talk about those, and maybe about, you know, how like the impact of these documentaries when it comes to like how Asian people are treated in real life, for specifically East Asian immigrants or in the diaspora, and like how these documentaries either try to break the mold of what we know about East Asia, specifically China and North Korea, which don't have a lot of soft power in the West, and how they either try to like fit into these molds of like scary place, or if they try to humanize them. And actually a lot of these documentaries do try to humanize, you know, the people, their subjects, and yeah, they're actually pretty good documentaries, honestly. So that was just a thought. Another thought I had for a video was morality around eating dogs, because that's like I know it's like just putting that out there, because that's like a stereotype that I faced a lot, and that I think that would be interesting to talk about, to bring in like, you know, moral relativity. Is true morality even a thing that we can uphold in real life? Are there like moral values that are just innate or natural? And I don't know. I'm just throwing out some things here. But those are things that I'm thinking about. Anyway, thank you so much for coming back and giving me life, and giving me life, but seriously, making me feel motivated to film, to continue with my videos, because I do really like making them. I'm so proud of them. Even though a lot of the videos didn't do well this year, you know, I stand by them, and they're some of like my favorite videos that I've made, you know, ever. You know, I just keep trying to make them better and better. So thank you so much for your support. Thank you for your questions, and I'll see you hopefully in the next one, either this month or next month. Bye.